Hello everyone, so today we are going to be making Lao style beef jerky that I grew up with and love snacking on, and my kids absolutely adore it as well. And here are the ingredients that we will be using today for the Lao beef jerky. I bought 3 packs of about 2.5 pounds to 2 pounds each of the London broil. And I'm going to be using Kefir lime leaf that I grew from my garden and backyard, and my lemongrass that I also grew in front of my house. But of course, you can just go to a Southeast Asian supermarket, and usually they have them in the frozen aisle, or sometimes if you're lucky, you get it fresh. The lemongrass, usually they are pretty fresh in the Asian market, Southeast Asian market. And I'm going to be using kosher salt and, yes, fish sauce to tenderize it. And you need some kind of fruit or meat dehydrator. And I'm using this one from Nesco. I bought it from Camp Moore. But you can go online and order it through Amazon or something like that. And I'm sure you can find them. So again, these are the ingredients that I will be using for my Lao beef jerky. So here I am. I'm going to be cutting it in strips. These are London broil. So I'm going to make these strips. It all depends on the size that you want and how thick of the jerky that you like. So I like them thicker and longer, so that way when they dry, most of the time they shrink anyway. And my kids like them chunky, so that way they can hold on to them and chow them down. All the London broil is sliced into little pieces, and here how it looks like, just like this, in a big bowl, so I can mix them later. So now I'm gonna chop up the Kefir lime leaves, and these are the Kefir lime leaves that I grew in my garden. But of course, you can just go to an Asian market and get them fresh or frozen, whatever you can get. And this is also the lemongrass that I grew at home. So here I'm just gonna, pretty much like a bay leaf, you put a bunch of them, and then you kind of wrap them together so it's easier to cut up. And then I'm just going to dice them really fine like this. Okay, so when you dice them, it's nice and make them nice and thin and fine, because in that way it really sticks onto the meat, the steak, and when it dries, it really gets into the steak and gives it a nice flavor. So I'm just gonna keep doing this. So here, it is. This is how it looks like, and so I'm going to put them into the steak. I'm going to slice up some lemongrass. So here are the lemongrass. It doesn't have to be perfectly fine, because your goal here for this whole beef jerky is to give it a nice scent of lemongrass, a scent of Kefir lime leaves, and all that oil and scent, smell, all that flavor from these herbs are gonna go into the meat, and it's gonna infuse the meat as it's being dried up. And usually when I dry it, I would say I dry it for about 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours, depending on the heat. Depending on your dehydrator, your dryer. Each dryer is a little different, but most dryers would have an indicator of if you're drying a meat, if you're drying fruits, as to what temperature it should be set for. In this case, I'm going to put it in about for 8 hours. So I'm going to take about a handful of salt, and I'm just going to sprinkle it around. So another handful, like this, sprinkle it around. It all depends on what kind of salt you like. I mean, some people like it saltier, some people don't like it saltier. So the salt is pretty salty already, and the fish sauce is going to be also salty. So I'm not putting it too much. So I'm going to sprinkle it around. So I would say maybe like 4 tablespoons of the fish sauce would be fine. And then now everything is in there. So I'm going to marinate this. So here is, this is how it looks like. I have my lemongrass, my Kefir lime, my kosher salt, and my fish sauce. So I'm just gonna mix everything in together with all the herbs. And also when it's done when it's done drying, a lot of times in Laotian culture and how we eat them, we usually have like a side of hot sauce or hot paste of some sort with hot steamy sticky rice. So we eat them like that as well. Or you can just eat them plain. So that's why you don't put too much salt in it, because the hot sauce already has salt in it too. So you can adjust the salt to your liking pretty much. And it's a matter of also making it a couple times, and then you can kind of, feel it out to how you like it, and make it your own, and with your own taste and flavor to it. So here I am marinating it like this, and this is how it looks like when it's completely done and marinated. So now I'm just going to go wash my hands, and I'm going to show you how to lay it out in the fruit dryer. Okay, so now we're going to put the jerky into the dehydrated, the dryer. So I got this from Camp Moore, and I use them to dry all of my jerkies. And what's great about these are it comes in different trays. So you can buy as many trays as you like depending on what you're making. So right now I have about 8 trays, but I'm only using, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm using 5 trays. So here's the bottom of this. You start from the bottom because you want to work your way up. Okay, so here's the dryer, the dehydrator. So I'm going to take one by one. See how thick the jerky is? You can make it as thin as thick as you like as well. It's a matter of just your preference of the steak and the cut. Okay, so I'm laying it down like this. And you usually don't want them too close to each other, because when they are drying, especially if they're sitting at the bottom of the tray, the heat will not, at the end of the day, they're all distributed evenly. But I usually make my bottom tray not as packed, and the steak not as close to each other. And then as I go higher up on the trays, that's when I can kind of add them and make them a little bit more packed. But always leave a little bit of room for it, for the space between each steak, so that way there's enough heat going around evenly. Okay, so now that I stack up all of the trays, here is how it looks like on each tray, and I stack about 4 of these trays. Now all you have to do is pretty much just close up the lid, and in the front of me is the temperature gauge of how it would tell you what you're drying and at what temperature it should be in. So my meat, fish, and jerky would be at 155 Fahrenheit, which is 68 Celsius. So that's where I would set it to, and pretty much let it sit for 6 to 8 hours. So this is how this looks like, the Lao style beef jerky that I showed you how to make it earlier. So this is all dried up and ready to be eaten. But also some Laotians like to actually take a small little pan, like an egg pan, and then you just put a couple drizzle of oil, and then you kind of toast it a little bit with the hot pan in the oil, so that way it gives it a nice toasty crunch to it as well. So if that's what you like to try, you can do that, or you can just eat it right off of the dryer because it's all ready to go. Okay, so enjoy, and I hope you guys try to make this, and please subscribe if you like, and please keep following and keep cooking with me. Thank you.